Hey folks, I just recorded my reaction to Murder Drones episode 2, and I was kind of thinking, like, this shelf is behind me in like every video I make, every live stream I do, and I kind of wanted to kind of show off what else on it and kind of like how I organize it, the stuff that's on it, really just to show off my game collection because that's a grand majority of what makes up the stuff on the shelves. And also because I swap stuff around back there all the time. I don't know if people notice it or pay attention or care even, but just every couple videos I'll be like, I want to swap everything up, and it's kind of random sometimes. Like when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I think I grabbed like every Zelda game I had and displayed those. But I kind of just shuffle it around at random. Sometimes it's things I haven't displayed in a minute. Sometimes it's like right now I just put on the DS and 3DS portion of my shelves, entries I did not like from series I do. So you'll have Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light and Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. Two games I did not enjoy very much from series I normally very much do. So here I'm going to cut over to my camcorder footage and kind of go shelf by shelf and kind of show off everything that's on there, kind of talk about neat stuff there. So apologies for how the audio sounds now. I'm now going off the onboard microphone of my camcorder. But yeah, I figured I'd start with the top and then go all the way to the bottom and kind of work my way up from there, because most of my game collection is on the bottom and most of the stuff on the top is just, kind of collectible stuff. But first of all, the posters. I have a couple movie posters. I have one for The Room, which is signed by Tommy Wiseau, which I think would scare people away if it was in the background of everything. I also have a Batman one from, I think, The Dark Knight Rises. Those are in the closet off to the side, but I figured I'd put the Scott Pilgrim one there because of the... I knew that was where I was going to put my bass amp and my bass pedals, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And then the other two posters are from my parents' vinyl copy of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, which is my favorite album of all time. Both of these posters, both the Pink Floyd periodic table and the Pyramids one, were just in that vinyl, so I kind of yoinked those for myself. And now they rest behind me as a little commemoration for my favorite album ever. But most of what's on top here of these bookshelves is some Pokemon card stuff. I got back into Pokemon cards back in 2020, which I'll talk about a little more when I get to the top shelf. But these are mostly just boxes of stuff I bought. I have a couple ETBs, Chilling Reign off on the left, and Crown Zenith, a newer set on the side. I tend to really only buy sealed product for specialty sets, because I feel like those have a higher chance of retaining value or being more valuable in the future. Most sets that you can just buy individual packs of, those are more readily available, but the ones that only come in these or ETBs, I tend to gravitate towards those. So I have two 25th anniversary ones that I don't think I'll ever open because a lot of those cards are worthless, but hey, it's an anniversary specialty set. Shining Fates and Champion's Path right over here. Just a couple other specialty sets. And then in the background, you can see just back there, there's a Pokemon Go one because, hey, I play a lot of Pokemon Go. So yeah, I add to these occasionally when I buy them, but I haven't bought any in a minute. I might get one for the, there's an upcoming Pokemon 151 set, and I think I'll probably buy one for that. But for the most part, these are just kind of the specialty boxes, and I'm going to hang on to these for forever. And real quick, not a part of the shelves, but my bass amp. It's an Ampeg something or other. I had an old Ampeg and it died, so I got a new one to replace it a couple years ago. But my bass pedals are... this might be the most expensive thing I own. It just kind of sits in the background of everything. But this is a bass synthesizer. It's supposed to act like a... like the foot pedals of an organ kind of thing, and it plugs into my amp and everything, so as I'm playing stuff, I can kind of like, do a sustained E or something here, whatever notes kind of play. Yeah, it sounds awesome. I should really demo it sometime. If you want to see a video of me demoing this thing, let me know, because it's kind of the constant sitting in the background of my videos, and I'm really proud that I have it. Only 1,000 of this model were made. I have serial number 333, which I think is neat, because it's a unique... Well, they're all unique numbers, but it's a nice number, a triple basically. Yeah, I'm super glad to have this. I bought this like almost 10 years ago at this point, and it's like one of those things where like you can maybe find, I think there's one selling on eBay that's kind of been listed for a really long time. There's a bunch of watchers, but no one's bought it yet. So hey, I'm glad to have this one. It will stay with me for forever. Even if they make another line of Tauruses, like, hey, this one is unique and this one is mine, and I'm super proud to have it. And I think I'm going to cover the rest of these cubbies kind of two at a time as I go because, hey, widescreen format. But over here on the upper left is more Pokemon card stuff. These are where I keep like bulk singles, stuff that I've like bought and opened. I'm going to come over here real quick. So I have just kind of like loose cards sitting around here. I bought like one pack of Scarlet and Violet. These are both full of cards. And then I have back here, some older cards that I think I've showed off in a couple videos. Ones I had from a kid. I got my whole... Sorry if you can hear my dog kind of whining in the background. Amazon just came a minute ago. But I got my Pokemon card collection from my parents' house back in 2020 and kind of got back into that. Sold a bunch of singles, bought a bunch of new stuff because Pokemon cards were really hot back then. Probably the best thing on that shelf is that box right over there, that yellow box. That is a sealed booster box of Evolving Skies, which came out, I think, almost 2 years ago now. This was probably the most popular set from the Sword and Shield era, still in the wrapping. This box is very valuable now, and it's probably only going to go up with time. Hope I'm not in the shot too much. And then this box right here is just kind of random stuff, casino stuff usually. Whenever I go to a casino, I tend to save a $5 chip from each one. So I have, I really wish I would have saved them from Vegas, but I have mostly ones from Louisiana, Golden Nugget, L'Auberge du Lac, and Harrah's in New Orleans. I really like the Harrah's ones because they're all kind of like Mardi Gras colors and all that kind of stuff. So just a little thing I like to collect from casinos I go to. Just a little $5 chip from each. So that's about it for this shelf. It's mostly Pokemon cards. And then over here on the right is just some Mario stuff. As I was kind of building these shelves out, I kind of just needed, you know, space to fill some of these. I kind of wanted the top to be like kind of more collector, kind of show-offy kind of stuff. So I just kind of put some Mario stuff. I have cartridges of Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3. On the NES there, and then back here, I'm going to grab this real quick, I'll fix that. But this is a pin set that came from Club Nintendo. I'm going to try to hold that properly there. But it came in this little set. This is like if you bought like a certain dollar amount of Nintendo stuff throughout a year and registered it on this site or whatever, you would get like a specialty reward at the end of the year. And one year it was a bunch of pins of sprites from Mario Brothers 1. I think you can kind of see them all there. But it's just a neat little thing. So, hey, everyone likes pins, and I like the way that it's kind of displayed. Like, you know, the Mario on the one side and the pins on the other. So I thought it was kind of neat to display. Put it back here. I'll fix that later. And then over here on the right side of the top shelf, we have, I'm going to start on the right because it's the one I have the less to say about, but a Rob the Robot from the NES days. I not mained, he was like my second main in Smash Bros. Brawl, Rob. So I wanted to get a little Rob the Robot because it's like, hey, it's like the one character from Smash that you can kind of own in real life. And then a Wally. I got a Wally from a Disney store a long time ago because I really like Wally, and I still do. And then there's a mug in the back, which was, I probably should just put it with my other mugs, but it's a Toe Jam and Earl mug. They kind of did a remake of Toe Jam and Earl, like a newer version in the same classic style, and they ran it on Kickstarter, and I backed it at the level where I got a free mug. So there's a Toe Jam and Earl mug back there that I think I've maybe drank out of once. But then over on the left here is Earthbound, a little cartridge of Earthbound. I'll zoom in on this here a little. But Earthbound is one of my favorite games of all time. Just zoom in right here. Guarded by a Lucas and Ness amiibo. These are the only amiibos I've ever bought. But yeah, I love Earthbound. This game is extraordinarily expensive these days, but I have one. And I'm very, very proud of it and kind of feel that, you know, something of that magnitude, something that's so important to me, should be displayed pretty much by itself. Guarded by the heroes of that game and Mother 3, which Mother 3 is my favorite game of all time. Do not own a physical copy. That's like kind of one of those bucket list items for me someday. I'll get it someday. So down here now in the far bottom right corner is probably the most boring aspect of my collection. It is both my kind of my newest console stuff over on the right with the PS4, Switch, and Wii U. And then on the cubby on the left is Xbox 360. I tend to not change out the display games on the Xbox 360 because there's not too much that's like worth displaying, I don't think, but I really like the Souls games, so I kind of just keep Dark Souls 1 and 2 kind of out there permanently, even though Dark Souls 2 I haven't played since I first beat it. Yeah, it's not my favorite of the Souls games, but hey, it's just kind of a display thing I like to keep out. And then I'm kind of proud of my Wii U collection. Like, it's just a weird little console, but I have a couple games that are actually still unopened that I don't know if I'll ever open. I think the unopened games craze is like gone. Something else just fell on a shelf above. That's okay. But yeah, I like the Wii U. I think it's a console that is, you know, very tragic in its story and lifespan, but it's one I like a lot, and I'm glad I have a decent number of games for that, even though a lot of these have been re-released on the Switch. And then over here on the left side of the very bottom shelf is PlayStation 2 over on the right, and then Nintendo 64 and PS1 off on the left. I was really late in getting an N64. I bought a used one from GameStop, and so my library of games isn't too big, but I'm kind of proud of what I have. I tend to not display stuff outside of the N64 case, just because like I feel like it would pretty much just be like Kirby 64 and it would just never change. I mean, what am I going to put Donkey Kong 64 out there? I could, but I don't know. I don't want it. It just doesn't feel worth it to display for me. So a very small collection, but I'm proud of what I have. And then PlayStation 2 over here, I do swap it up just a little bit here and there. It's Guitar Hero 1 and 2 right now, but for the longest time it was Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3. Maybe just Xenosaga 3, I'm not sure, but those are games I liked a lot. My library is okay. I mean, it fills up a whole shelf, basically, a whole little cubby. So, you know, I have a decent number of stuff there. Kingdom Hearts, Ratchet and Clank, pretty much the basic stuff, Final Fantasy. So pretty much the only stuff I'm super, super proud to have that's like of note or value is the Xenosaga games. Specifically the third one. Like, the first one isn't worth much. I don't think the second one's worth too much either. It's not that great of a game. But the third one is like a $200 game or something these days, so hooray! I own that. But yeah, PS2 was, hey, it was like, aside from the Wii, it was like the console with like the longest lifespan, so it's not surprising that I just have like a ton of games for it. So this one might be a little censored, so sorry about that. I have some high school yearbooks over here, but over on the left I have my plushies, which I have out displayed. The Sonic one I've had since I was a little kid. The Cactuar I bought from like I think I bought it from like a convention I went to one time. I have a Gengar and a Boo, but over kind of in the middle I have a homemade Meat Boy and Isaac that a friend of mine made for me like maybe 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Like a real long time ago, a friend made it and said like, hey, I know you love these games. I made you little plushies, which I thought was really, really nice. And I love them, and they're on my shelf. Over on the left is just some books stuff, a lot of yearbooks dating back to when I was in like preschool. Like, hang on a second. There's little preschool Tallman. Look at that. But yeah, yearbooks from elementary school, one from middle school, and a bunch from high school. That, like I said, are probably censored out here just so I don't completely dox myself. But then I have a space book I bought like on clearance from a Barnes & Noble one time that's just got pictures of planets and stars and galaxies and all stuff. It's really nice. I like it a lot, and my kid loves it too. The Complete Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft, just because I love me some cosmic horror stuff. And then over on the right, I have some old game guides from when I was a kid, like some Mario stuff, Donkey Kong. I have one from Mario RPG that's probably my favorite in that. Just some stuff I've hung on to since I was a kid, and probably will never get rid of. I don't know how much they're worth. They're all pretty beat up because even though I didn't necessarily use them for the games all too much as a kid, I loved looking through them and looking at the art and all that kind of stuff and any little things that were in there. I love those things. So these two shelves have all of my Nintendo handheld stuff in them. Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance stuff on the left, DS and 3DS stuff on the right. As you can tell, I have a lot of 3DS and DS games. Yeah, probably easily the most I have for each console. These are the smallest boxes and they're stacked up on top of each other. Yeah, lots of stuff. Lots of Kirby, Fire Emblem, Mario, like pretty much everything. Some Monster Hunter stuff on the 3DS. And on the Game Boy side, it's mostly a lot of Kirby. The thing I'm happiest that I still have the box and manual for is Pokemon Red in there, because that, even though it's one of the best-selling games of all time, like it's still one of those things that complete copies are so sought after by collectors and stuff that the complete in-box version of Pokemon Red and Blue are absurdly expensive. So yeah, I kind of moved the display stuff over on the side so you can kind of get a better look at these, even if you can't necessarily tell what all's in them. Hey, if you want to zoom in or whatever, be my guest, but it's a lot of stuff here. So Pokemon Red, I'm super proud to have. As I've made a video before, but the Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition with the DLC that you can't get anymore because they closed the 3DS eShop. That is one of the most valuable games in my whole ass collection. Not a game from the 80s or 90s. A game for the 3DS is one of the most expensive things I own. So, hey, there's that. So over here we have my Wii collection on the left and my last of the non-gaming shelves over on the right. The one on the right is kind of my least going on shelf. The cars that you see there are medals from 5Ks I've run at my favorite brewery here in Houston. As well as something that I meant to sell back in 2020 but never did, Breaking Bad on Blu-ray, the complete series. A big fan of that show when it first aired, and so when the full Blu-ray set came out, I grabbed it, and I've never watched it on Blu-ray since then. Should probably at some point. I guess it just now serves as a hat rack for my dipper hat. But over on the right side of the shelf, there's 3 books that I'm kind of proud of. They are, in order, Marcy's Journal from Amphibia, The Liminal Zone, which is a Junji Ito collection that I think released last year. I really need to get more Junji Ito. I love that guy. And then the Mother 3 Handbook, put out by Fangamer a bunch of years ago. So that's... Even if I don't own a physical copy of Mother 3, I at least own like a strategy guide kind of thing. And it's really nice. It was custom made by Fangamer, and it's really, really cool. I think it's out of print. Maybe they've reprinted it since then, but I bought the kind of initial run, and I'm very, very happy to own that. But my Wii stuff, I have a bunch of Wii games. Like I said, I think it's the console with the longest lifespan of all time. And a lot of games, just a lot of stuff you'd expect, you know, your Metroid, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil 4. I never had the GameCube version, but I have the Wii version. Bunch of Mario stuff. The big box right there is the Zelda Skyward Sword Collector's Edition, because I didn't have the Wiimote with the fancy, what was it, the Wii Motion Plus, I think it was, and the special edition came with that, a nice golden Triforce Wiimote, which is really nice. But yeah, just kind of the basic stuff for the Wii, nothing too crazy. Probably the coolest thing I own for this console is probably Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. One of my least favorite of the modern Fire Emblem games, but hey, any Fire Emblem game like on physical before I guess almost ever, I guess except for the Switch one, is pretty expensive these days, so I'm glad to own that one. But yeah, pretty basic Wii collection, but I'm happy with what I have. And finally, here is what I feel is the crown jewel of my game collection. It is my NES and GameCube stuff. Kind of totally different eras of gaming, but I'm gonna start with, I guess I'll start with the NES stuff, because I think I'm more proud of the GameCube stuff. But I didn't have an NES growing up, but about maybe 12 years ago or something, my uncle, who had an NES, he had basically this collection of games. I offered to buy it all from him because it was just kind of sitting, and it was when I was getting more into collecting and stuff, and I kind of put an offer together, and he said, like, look, you can just have it if it's going to a good home. So I got an NES console and all these games for free. The ones I have pretty much permanently sitting out are Zelda 1 and 2 and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! with, there's a kind of a totally random assortment of stuff here, like a lot of sports stuff. Aside from those, the things I'm most proud to have are Tetris and Castlevania 2 in the box with the manuals, and then loose cartridges. I have Mega Man 2 and Ghosts and Goblins are probably the coolest things I own. But as the collection goes, like the things I'm most proud of are the Zeldas and the Punch Out. The Zeldas, in those beautiful gold cartridges with just the artwork is so good on those. But yeah, I don't think I really don't foresee any games like kind of topping those as far as what's on display, so to speak. And then over on the GameCube collection, I'm gonna actually just kind of center this right here and just kind of zoom in a little bit because, like I said, this is probably the single game console collection that I'm most proud of. So let's just zoom in a little bit more there. Unfortunately, Luigi's Mansion is the one I have that's the collector's version, or the greatest hits version. But most of this stuff I had, since childhood. GameCube came out when I was like 11, I think. And unfortunately, I sold my Super Nintendo and my entire Super Nintendo collection to GameStop to buy a GameCube, which I very heavily regret, but I'm also glad I have the GameCube and stuff. But like, man, I wish I still had my Super Nintendo collection. I think the most valuable thing I had for that these days is, stuff I had as a kid, but even probably more expensive than the Earthbound cartridge I have was Kirby's Dream Land 3, complete in the box and stuff. I think buying that these days would set you back about $500 or so, which is like obscene. It was a very late Super Nintendo game. But yeah, I'm really happy with my collection here. There's only a couple things that I feel like I necessarily need to have like a more like, I don't want to say complete collection because obviously this is nowhere near complete, but robust as far as like good games and stuff. And I think the one I'm going to focus on acquiring next is Kirby's Air Ride. Never had that one as a kid. But yeah, just kind of going in alphabetical order, including the stuff on the top. I guess I'll list out my games. Animal Crossing, Eternal Darkness, Fire Emblem, which Fire Emblem I got for really cheap used back in the day, and now that game's worth about $250. Killer 7, which I still haven't played. Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion, a couple of the Mario, like Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, Metroid Prime 1 and 2, Paper Mario, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 0. I'm pretty proud to have that 2 and 3 as well. Pikmin 1 and 2, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Mega Collection, the 2 Star Fox games, Mario Sunshine, Super Monkey Ball, Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, and Tales of Symphonia. As well as, like, right up there is the Game Boy Advance Game Boy Player startup disc, which is the more rare of the two items. Like there's a lot, apparently there's a lot more of the actual Game Boy players for the GameCube than there are startup discs. So I'm glad I have the startup disc so I can actually use the dang thing. But yeah, I think overall, if you were to ask me what my favorite like console was as far as like its game library and stuff, I might say the GameCube. Like I said, I'm super proud of this collection. Just a couple things I want to like kind of like flesh it out just a little bit more. But yeah, super happy with this. And I guess that's where this ends. We've seen everything on these two shelves. Well, I say two shelves because it's two IKEA Billy bookcases put together. But yeah, what do you think of my collection? Any suggestions? Let me know anything you want to see displayed on a future video in the comments below. But yeah, I just kind of want to show this all off today, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope it wasn't a complete waste of your time, and yeah, catch you next time with something else. Take it easy, everybody.